Okay, students, we're coming back after having looked at on paper. I've given you a link to look at the checkpoint 4 through 9, and now we're going to pick up with example 4. Okay, so example 4 says solve a quadratic equation. Okay, so at this point you've been factoring, and now you're going to use the technique of factoring to actually solve an equation. You've been factoring expressions, and now we're going to solve an equation. Okay, so in example 4, they're saying, okay, solve this equation. And it's going to be quadratic. 21n squared plus 14n plus 7 equals 6n plus 11. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, just when you're solving any quadratic, you're going to bring everything on one side and have it set to 0. So we're saying 6, we're going to subtract 6n, subtract 11. So minus 6n, minus 11 on both sides. That's going to give us 21n squared plus 8n minus 4 equals 0. Okay. All right, so we're going to now use the box method to factor this. And so we're going to put 21 and squared in the upper left. We're going to put a negative 4 here. And then we're going to multiply 21 times negative 4. We're going to end up with a negative 84. Okay, so we're looking for factors of negative 84 that combine into positive 8. So I'm going to have a positive and a negative, all right? So, and the absolute value of my larger absolute value is going to have to be positive because they got to combine into a positive middle term. So what are my factors of this? Okay, so I don't know. Let's just start from the beginning. 1 and 84. That ain't going to do it, right? That doesn't combine into that. Okay, then next, let's do, okay, 84 divided by 2. This might take us a little bit. Okay, so we're going to have negative 4 and 42 positive, right? So that's still, we're getting closer, but that's not quite it. Okay, so let's do, I think 6 probably goes in here. So let's do 42 divided by 6. I think that's going to be, 84 divided by 6. Okay, that's 14. Haha, I think we got it. Here it is. Okay, so because negative 6 plus 14 is positive 8. So there it is. So we're going to put a negative 6 in here, and we're going to put a 14 in here. All right, let's go up, up, over, over, and pay attention to where we have negatives. Okay, so what's the GCF between negative 6n and negative 4? Well, it looks like it's going to be a positive 2, and then it's touching this box, so it's going to be negative, right? All right, between 21n squared and 14n, well, 7n goes into both of those guys. All right, sideways, between 21n squared and 6n, it looks like 3n goes into both of those. And then this way, 14n and minus 4, well, that looks like that's going to be a 2. All right, so it's going to factor, so these are my factors then, these guys. Okay, so this factors into 3n plus 2, okay, times 7n minus 2. Okay, equals 0. Now you're going to use the zero product property to now solve the quadratic. So you're going to set each of these factors to 0 and solve for n. So minus 2, you get 3n equals minus 2. Divide each side by 3. So n is going to equal negative 2/3. And then I'm going to add 2, so I get 7n equals 2. And then I divide each side by 7. I get n equals 2/7. So those are my two solutions then, right here and here. Okay. All right, and you can plug that back into the original, and you would see that the left side equals the right side when you do that. All right, so I'm going to do the last checkpoint. I'll do that on paper as well for you guys, so you can look at that. Let me just finish up here with example 5, and then we'll be done with this section. So pause this, look at the paper for checkpoint 10, 11, 12 after you've worked through them, and then come back and watch this, the last part, which is example 5. All right, example 5. It says when a diver jumps from a ledge, the vertical component of his motion can be modeled by the vertical motion model, which you've seen that before. Oops. All right. Okay. Suppose the ledge is 48 feet above the ocean. Okay, kids, don't do this at home. And the initial upward velocity is 8 feet per second. How long will it take until the diver enters the water? Okay, and so they're having us use that vertical motion formula. They say H equals, remember, negative 16t squared plus vt plus s, okay? Where v is your initial velocity and s is your, I believe it's your initial height, and then h is going to be where you're going to end up. Okay, and of course you're going to end up in the water, which is at 0. So let's plug everything in. We're going to get 0 equals negative 16t squared. V, they said, was what? 8 feet per second, so plus 8t. And then your initial height up, that looks darn scary to me, 48. All right, and so we're going to solve this by factoring. And again, what we want to do is, this definitely has some common factors in there. So let's factor that out first. And I think in general, if you get a leading negative, you should just go ahead and take the negative out. And it looks like to me it's going to be negative 8. So let's take negative 8 out. And this becomes 2t squared minus t minus 6. Okay, I believe that's correct. All right, so we'll use the box method then on this part to solve it. All right. All right, so we're going to put 2t squared here. We're going to put negative 6 here. All right, we're looking for factors of negative 12 that combine into negative 1. Okay, so that means that my smaller is going to be positive. My larger absolute value will be negative 4. All right, so this is going to be negative 4t and 3t here. All right, let's go up, up, over, over. So up, up, what's my common factor? It's going to be 2, and it's touching a negative box, so it's negative 2. Up, up, it's just going to be t. Sideways, going to be 2t. Sideways this way, it looks like it's going to be a 3. All right, so this factor's in there. Notice that this negative 8 is not going to have any bearing on the solution. Okay, so you're going to get 2t plus 3 times t minus 2. You're going to still just set these to 0. The negative 8 doesn't do anything to it because I could divide each side by negative 8, right, and it goes away. So you're going to set 2t plus 3 equal to 0, and t minus 2, you're going to set that to 0. And now you're going to solve for t. So subtract 3 and divide by 2. So t equals negative 3 halves. Subtract, add 2 to each side, you're going to get t equals 2. All right, does it make sense to have negative time? It doesn't. So this is another example of an extraneous solution. It's correct algebraically, but it doesn't really make sense in the context of this because we're not dealing with negative time. It doesn't make sense to have negative time. So this is saying, all right, t equals 2. All right, so that's the answer. It's going to take 2 seconds to make it to the water. Okay, all right, so that is it for section 10.6.